Today, we're going to talk about one of the best books I've read recently, and that is Ultralearning by Scott H. Young. Accelerate your career, master hard skills, and outsmart the competition. Does it deliver? Maybe. We'll see. Let's find out. What is Ultralearning? Ultralearning, as defined in the book, is a strategy for acquiring skills and knowledge that is both self-directed and intense. And according to Scott, the reasons to pursue this strategy as opposed to going to a normal class or the more traditional approaches to learning is to accelerate an existing career, enter a new career, or create an advantage in the current competitive landscape. So pretty standard stuff. Just because it is intense does not mean that an ultralearning project has to be full-time. In fact, Scott specifically states that intensity is not dependent on the time that you spent on it. Rather, it is the quality of the time. So you can just spend 1 hour every day over a few weeks. You can spend, 5 hours but only on the weekends. Or you can do it, 2-3 times a week, whatever your schedule permits. So this is important. While Scott does mention some really impressive examples of ultralearning projects, he emphasizes that ultralearning does not mean you need to win an award or become the best in the world at something. Actually, impressive results are just, some projects, and of course he's going to put those ones in the book, but ultralearning is about being the best you can be and learning in the best possible way and just acquiring new skills. So as long as you learn the skill, that is good enough. Accolades aren't important. Crazy results aren't important. You don't need to be Tim Ferriss to do this. Every project is very unique and hard to boil down because this is not a formal curriculum. This is something that is self-defined and self-driven. So of course everybody will do it in different ways. There are 9 unifying principles. Meta-learning, focus, directness, drill, retrieval, feedback, retention, intuition, experimentation. So Scott says that even beyond these principles, what is really important is to have the ultra-learning mindset. And what exactly is that, you may ask? Well, your ultra-learning mindset is to take responsibility for what you're learning and how you're learning it. Know that you are the only person responsible for your own results. You are not doing a course, you are not doing this for a grade, you are designing your own learning, and if it doesn't work, the only person you can blame is yourself. And that the principles outlined are flexible guidelines as opposed to rigid rules. Once again, you're not being graded, there's no formal curriculum, you can play around with things as you want, whatever works best for you, works best for you. And knowing that learning well means testing things out. Think the scientific method. Think trial and error. Try again, and try some more while you're at it. So, principle number 1, meta-learning. Meta-learning is learning about learning. What is the best possible way to learn what you want to know? There are 2 parts to this. 1, what kind of knowledge exists within a subject? For example, if you want to learn how to draw, what do you do with a pencil, or how do you best mix oil paints as opposed to acrylic paints, or as opposed to watercolors or pastels? Then you need to learn
anatomy, you need to learn composition, you need to learn color theory, you need to learn perspective, you need to learn different techniques of like hatching or wet on wet or dry on dry, or
throw more artist terms here. So you need to know what all of these boxes are within a subject, and then how best to learn which ones and how to internalize all of that information, because learning how to draw is going to be different from learning how to do math. You all know that already. So for Scott, meta-learning is building a map to learning something. What are the places on this map? What are the locations? What are the sub-subjects that you need to learn? How do you get there? Which way do you go? In what order do you tackle these things? And what are the available roads? What are the methods that you can use for actually learning how to know this? And this is important. The more you learn, the easier it will be to learn more. Scott says that the most difficult ultra-learning project you're going to do is always going to be the first one, and every single ultra-learning project will inform future ones as well. Break your project down into 3 things. Why? Why do you want to learn this? What is important to you? This will help you define what aspects of the skill do you want to prioritize. What knowledge do you actually need to be successful at your goal? If you're learning something to get a promotion, what do you need to know? What are the requirements to get that promotion? And how? What are the resources, methods? What environment do you need to get there? Try to determine what the hardest things to learn are going to be. What are going to be the bottlenecks, and try to figure out a way to tackle those. Scott says that you should invest around 10% of your learning time into projects. And of course, if your project is longer, if it's a year, you don't need to spend like a month doing meta learning. This is more for shorter projects. Don't spend more than a week doing this, I would say. Number 2, focus. See the camera focus. Finger guns. So Scott says that focus is actually a little bit more specific and boils down into 3 types of problems. Problem number 1. Failing to start focusing, otherwise known as procrastination. This is when getting yourself to actually focus is the hardest task. What's important here is awareness. Learn when you're actually procrastinating. Are you procrastinating because Are you procrastinating because you have the urge to do something else specific, or because you just want to avoid doing the thing you're supposed to be doing? So there's a difference between, oh, I don't want to do my homework because I'm hungry and I want to eat, as opposed to I don't want to do my homework and I'd rather do anything else but my homework. Are you drawn to something else specific, or is this a general discomfort? Most procrastination is short. It only lasts a few minutes, and if you push through those initial few minutes, you will get into the flow of things and it will be easier to continue than to start doing something else. So convince yourself to last through these few minutes of maximum unpleasantness before you take a break. If you feel like, oh, I want to stop, force yourself to do just 5 more minutes. You can always do 5 minutes of anything, no matter how boring or hard. Now, if you manage to get started, but now you're taking too many breaks, then try the Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro technique, if you don't know, is wonderful. You work for 25 minutes of uninterrupted effort, and then you take a break for 5 minutes. 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. After 4 sets, you take a 15-minute break, but that's less relevant. Just get to those 4 sets. Once you get used to actually sitting down and focusing for set periods of time, that is the time to actually start scheduling that. You go to your calendar and you're like, tomorrow from 2 to 4, I'm going to be working on learning Japanese. But don't do this at first. This is important. Start small. First, start by doing the 5-minute rule. Force yourself to focus for 5 minutes. Once you're comfortable focusing for 5 minutes, then do the Pomodoro technique and learn to focus for 25 minutes. Once you can do multiple Pomodoros comfortably, then start scheduling your time. Don't start scheduling your time immediately, because you're just not going to do it and you're going to neglect schedules, and what good is a tool if you can't use it? Problem number 2, failing to sustain focus. Do not cram. Do not cram. Repeat after me. Do not cram. It's not good for your brain. Your brain was not built this way. Now that you can do a few Pomodoros, schedule 2 Pomodoros in one day, 2 Pomodoros in another day, maybe 3 Pomodoros in another day if you're feeling really adventurous. Schedule your learning with breaks in between.
Do not cram. Do not cram. Do not cram. Do not cram.
If you have several hours to study in a larger block of time, for example, if you dedicate 5 hours on a Saturday to work on drawing, then try to focus on different concepts. Do one drawing for 1 hour and then maybe do a drawing with a different medium, or study anatomy for that next hour and then spend the next hour studying perspective. Switch things up so that your brain gets a mental break. The ideal amount of time to aim for one learning task, once you can handle your Pomodoros, is about 50 minutes to an hour before you should switch to the next learning task. That is about as much as our brain can handle sustained attention before it begins to drift. And test which environments you actually work better in. You might think that you work best with music. You might think that you might work best with pop music playing in your ears or classical music. But is that true? Have you tried it? Can you tell me that something works better than that? Can you? Can you? Test it out. Test it out. Test it out. Anyway, I got distracted. Finger guns!
But seriously,
Test whether you work better with music or without music. Test whether you work better at home or in a coffee shop, as much as quarantine allows, of course. And then do whatever works best. You might find that different environments work better for different tasks. For example, you might find it easier to learn math in a coffee shop and learn how to play guitar at home. That's a horrible example. And learn history better at home. Try to pick tools that are more engaging. If you can find a tool that's more gamified, something like Brilliant.org for math. It is .org, right? Something like Brilliant for math or Khan Academy, as opposed to just reading from a textbook like this. The more senses you can engage, the more you can make it playful, the better it will be for you and the less urge you will have to be distracted. Try to activate as much of your brain as possible. Don't just passively review the same thing over and over. Solve some creative problems. Engage your body. Move around. Try to do interactive puzzles, whatever. And learn to persist on the task despite negative emotions. Yeah, sometimes it's gonna suck, but the more you push through that sucking, the more you push through that boredom or frustration or sadness or anger or whatever else you're feeling, the easier it will be the next time. Think of it as training a muscle, your willpower muscle. But I have no muscles to flex. Why did I try to do this? Problem number 3, failing to create the right kind of focus. So it's important to determine what kind of stimulation you need. You might not be energetic enough, or you might be too energetic and hyper. Neither one is good. You want to be somewhere in the middle. So you need to learn, okay, I'm tired, I might need some caffeine or to walk around to get more energetic. If you think, oh, I'm too hyper, maybe I need to calm down, I might play some classical relaxing music. And actually, this is when music and environments might work better. If you're feeling low, you might be doing better in a loud environment like a coffee shop. But if you're too wired up, a loud environment will make you even more wired up, so you should go somewhere quiet and unstimulating. And with really complex tasks like mathematics, usually it's better to be less excited, while with things that are creative, like drawing or painting, it's better to be more excited. Principle number 3, directness. Do what you want to do. That sounds stupid, but it isn't. Basically, Scott says that the problem with a lot of classroom learning is the things you learn don't transfer onto the real life. When you learn how to do something in an isolated problem like isolated algebra drills, you will not know how to do it in the context of an actual engineering problem where you need to help make a car go faster, or I don't know what engineers do. If you learn how to draw squares only, and then you need to draw a human face, you're not gonna know how to do it. You know? If you learn how to speak Italian only through Duolingo, you will not know how to talk to a real human person. To know how to speak to a real human person, you need to speak to a real human person. That's it. That's the best way. But this is uncomfortable, it's scary, it's frustrating, it's easier to settle for something passive like watching a lecture, reading a book, or going on Duolingo. Seriously, don't do it. Duolingo's terrible. But direct practice is where most of the learning occurs, because you need to learn how to do things in the right context. You need to learn how to pick up on those contextual clues. You need to build the right kind of pathways rather than isolating them, because your brain will treat that as a completely different task. But the real situation might be really hard to access or create. It might be impossible. You might be learning how to fly, and you shouldn't try to operate a plane before you know how to fucking fly. I should swear less. So then you need to create a flight simulator. Try to create an artificial environment that is as close as possible to what you want to do. For example, I want to learn Japanese. I cannot currently go to Japan and get immersed in that environment. So I hire an online tutor who talks back to me and corrects me, and that is actually even better than if I went to Japan straight away, because I get some of that passive learning in as well, mixed in with the active learning, but I'm still speaking, I'm still doing exactly what I want to learn how to do. What are the tactics to learn directly? Project-based learning. Organize your learning around producing something. For example, learn how to draw by making actual drawings. Decide to draw your favorite character from a movie show, or to copy a photo you saw, or to draw your mom or your cat, rather than just passively repeating whatever's in a textbook. Or if you're learning how to code, rather than just doing exercises, make sure that you're actually building a game or a calendar app or something specific with a specific outcome. Immersive learning. This is easiest for learning languages. Put yourself in an environment where you're surrounded by the thing you want to learn. So go to a country where people speak the language that you want to learn. Flight simulator method. Simulate the cognitive features of whatever you want to learn and make it as similar as possible in terms of practicing the same skills and requiring the same kinds of problems. Or overkill, where you basically aim for something that is above your current level, which means that all the things you want to learn are encompassed within this more difficult thing. So if you want to get better at algebra, you just do some calculus, and you will probably have to go back and forth to be able to do it. But if your goal is more advanced than your current level, then you will directly learn an application of what you're learning, because you will learn an application of algebra to calculus. Therefore, you will be better at algebra than if you just drilled algebra on its own.
Hi, Editing Ria here. So basically, I decided to split the video into 2 parts because it was getting too long. So this is it for part 1. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and look forward to seeing part 2 on Saturday of this week, which will have the rest of the principles and some conclusions and applications and all of that really fun jazz. So if you like this video, please if you like this video, you know the drill. Press like, subscribe, press the bell if you feel like it, leave some comments. I would love every single bit of it. Mwah. Love you all.